Welcome everybody back to boostinmotion, guys, and today, well, we're going to be doing some work on our BC Racing coilovers for the Q60. But before I get into the video, guys, if you are watching this video, guys, hit the like button. Please, if you just look right now below, just hit the like button. Always be part of the like squad. It helps out the channel so much. You guys understand, it allows people who are looking for the boostinmotion, Q50, Q60, infiniti content to finally find me and for my channel to keep growing. And if I grow, I do more amazing, more cool things. It takes time and it takes patience. Thank you, guys. But anyways, let's jump into it. Alright, guys, so welcome back to the channel. These are BC Racing coilovers that I had on my 2015 Q50. Then I had them on my 2018 Q50. So just so you guys can know that they're interchangeable. My 2018 Q50 didn't have the DDS suspension. So with the DDS suspension, these parts right here are slightly larger. I'll show you later in the video comparing these lower mounts to the DDS lower mounts. Alright, but anyways, I put about 50,000 miles on both of these coilovers between the two Q50s. And now I can put these same coilovers on my Q60. Now I do have to change out these two rear struts. These things, it's connected with the lower mount and the cowls and springs, but you'll see it's a strut there and it's going to be a strut in here. These are the rear struts. I did end up changing these two front struts about a year and some change ago because I thought I had some other suspension issue, but it wasn't the struts. But anyways, the ride comfort did diminish in the last 2 years, I would say, in the rear end, which means these struts are really pretty much blown. So I got the replacement struts from BC Racing, which is good. You can buy the parts. They're available. Other coilover companies don't really have replacement parts. And I'm going to change out the spring rates. Now, in older videos, I've talked about spring rates before, but for you guys to see it, my front spring rate was 62. Bear with me. I'll see if it does. 62, 160, 24. Remember, guys, 62 is the inner diameter width. 160 is how tall the springs are from the top to the bottom in length in millimeters. And the 24 is the spring rate, pretty much 24K. And that lets you know how much weight it takes to compress the spring 1 inch. So 24K is really high for these cars, but it really kept the front end really stiff, and I don't like the feel in the bottom mount. That's why I had 24K. Let me just use a quick example. These are 62. Once again, these are 62, 160, the same length, right? They can be the same length, but it's a 12K, which means it only takes about a certain amount of weight for this to be compressed. So I'm gonna end up changing these K rates around a little bit, and we're gonna install some softer springs. But anyways, let's start breaking down the coilovers. The first thing, if you want to rebuild your coilovers, you're gonna have to start breaking down the system. Right now, there's a lot of tension on this spring. So we're gonna need to break down these collars. When you spring these collars down, you'll loosen up all the tension in this spring. BC Racing and any coilover system give you these winches. You can use these winches and put them in the opposite direction to break up the collars, like something like this. But if not, you can also use a pipe wrench. Be careful with the pipe wrench. You don't want the pipe wrench to rub on here. But anyways, I'm not really going to show you guys on video. It's very simple and easy things to do, and I don't want to make the video super long. So I'm going to break up all these collars, and I'm going to move on to the second part. Alright, now I broke up the collars and everything like that. Now you're going to take off the dampering system or the adjustable damper knob. You can twist that off or use any, I think it's a 15mm to twist it off. Let me see if I can get to start to zoom out a little better. And then you'll get a 17mm and you'll literally just zoop it right off because you release a lot of the tension. Alright? Now if you do get issues of it spinning, get a vice grips and just put it in between it and hold that in and then back it off. So that, because what's happening is it's spinning in place. So you got to be able to tighten it down so it'll stop spinning in place, and then you'll be good to go. Let me just tighten this up a little bit better and I should be good to go. Yeah, and that's it. It's off, it's good to go. I'm gonna do this to the rest of the 4 and you'll see what happens. So now I got the springs off. I'm gonna go with the 12K springs. I believe out the box they come with 10K springs. I believe if not, it's 12K, but I'm gonna go with the 12K springs for the front, so it's gonna be a lot less stiffer in the front and a lot easier on the shocks. And for the rear end, these are 10K springs in the rear. For the these ones in the rear are 10K springs. I'm gonna switch over to the 6K. From the box they give you 4K, so the rear end's gonna be a little stiffer. I had 20K in the rear before, then 14, then 12, then 10s. Then 10s that's over there. So I'm gonna go with 6K, which is a little stiffer from the ones out the box. And this one's actually a little taller than that, so this one actually it should be even a bit more comfy, because it's 200 versus 160, so you have a bit more spring for the car to sit on, which I think is a good benefit to it, because usually when you have a shorter spring, it usually makes it a little bit more stiffer, because it puts more stress on the shock and less stiffness on the spring, unless the spring is really stiff. But anyways, let me just go this one real quick, and then we're going to continue. Alright, so I want to give you guys a quick example on the difference between the all-wheel drive Q50, Q60 with the DDS versus the one that's non-DDS. So these are the lower collar mounts that connect to the lower fork, or that connects to the lower fork of your Q50, Q60. Now, this part sits inside the fork, right? On the DDS, the shocks are slightly wider. So if you take a look, you really might not see much of a big difference between the two, but there actually is. If I put these next to each other, the collar on the top, the one that's mainly black, is actually wider. Also, if you look at the collar mounts, this one's taller. I don't know why there's a difference in height. The rivets are still the same. Well, the threads are still the same on the inside, but it's a little taller. I don't know why. I'm a bit confused by that. Maybe they use a different shock, whatever, but I'm gonna use the shocks that come on because it will screw right up to this. But I just wanted to give you guys the difference. The difference shouldn't really be height, but the difference, this is the part that you care about the most, how wide this is in comparison to this. So definitely pay attention to this, and I'm probably gonna show you the difference. There's a part number to it. Number is going to be number 166, Q50 all-wheel drive with DDS front, lower mount. Also, it could be Q60 all-wheel drive also. I want to show you guys a little trick that I did. Make sure that the collars are at least tight so that the spring isn't moving up and down. Now, I want you to take the drill that you have, take that drill, and you're going to put it on top of there like that. Sit it down flat. This is just so that you don't have to spin the collar all the way back, and literally hold it steady, make sure it's good, and just go. Alright, made it a little easier. What you guys can also do is use some kind of thread. Don't use a thread locker, no. Use like a thread grease or something like that, like wheel bearing grease or something, so that you can be able to always break this up. I don't believe in using thread lockers for this type of stuff, because then how would you ever break it up? You know, if they get loose, they get tight. This is just what happens with coilovers. So I'm gonna do this to the same to the other side, and then we'll be good to go to move to the rear section. All right, so now we're moving on to the shock replacement. I'm replacing the two rear shocks. This is how the shocks come in. They usually have a shorter shock and a longer one. I want the longer one because it replaces the one that I already have. Well, it actually looks a little bit longer here. I might have went with one that's actually longer than the one that I was supposed to replace. But I should still be good anyways, because it gives you plenty enough room for when this goes in here, so they could go up and down. So I should be good there. But anyways, let me just replace this real quick. I have to pretty much move all these components from this side to that side. That's already finished, that side. And we're gonna finish this off, and yeah, we're gonna start closing it out. So now I got everything apart. You're gonna start with the lower mount. Then you're gonna start threading on the lower mount collar. This is the locking collar that adjusts the height. You're gonna start screwing this on. right? And then from then on, from the top, you're gonna put on the lower mount for here. You can actually go this direction if you want. You don't have to start from the bottom. You can start threading it on from here. Shoot, I'm trying to thread it on right now, but you know what I mean. Same thing for this. This is the large, is a little larger. So one's a locking collar, one's the collar that sits with the spring perch. And then you have the bump stop. You push the bump stop down. You have to move this little retaining clip. It's like a little retaining clip right. Let me see if I could try to get this to show it. There's a little retaining clip right there. You're gonna have to just pop and move that out the way so you can get, oh, I actually got it moved. Okay, I just slipped it over. All right, and then from then on, you'll put the dust boot over it. Dust boot's gonna go over that. Of course, you're gonna have this going lower, and then you'll pick your spring. Where's the spring that I'm going? Yeah, I'm going with a longer spring here. So I'm going with the 6K spring. So I'm gonna have to move these locking collars a lot farther down, and then this is gonna sit right here, like that. And then of course you put the top pad and everything back on. Anyways, let me just briefly do this for both, and then we'll finish off. All right, guys. So these are the coilovers. So now I finally have everything. Let me pick this up so I can show you guys a little better. So I replaced the rear shocks, which are these ones. I replaced them with new shocks, and I swapped over all the components. These are the extenders because this allows you to adjust the dampering from behind the rear deck. So make sure you always get the extenders. This one feels a little loose. I have to just double check it. But anyways, I changed the rear spring rate from 10 to now 6. And this shock is actually a little bit tall. These springs are a little bit taller. I pretty much left the body length the same. So I would change one and then try to finish that one and have it the same length of the next one, and then change that and have it the same length. So I could kind of know right around how tall they are. I'll just make the adjustments once I get on the car. The front ones, I went back to some older style, some older spring rates that I had. So I came from the 24, like I said, down to the 12. So the front end should be a lot more softer. And these shocks are already changed. I changed the rear bottom mounts to the red sports because I'm gonna need it for the forts. And everything pretty much there. Nothing really needed to be changed. So pretty much, let me close out this video and give you my guys. Pretty much just talk with you guys a little bit. Alright guys, so I changed out a lot of these parts, but I want to talk to you a little bit with you guys about coilovers, right? Think about it like this, right? I think this is an investment that you guys should really do. Hear me out. If you know you want to have this car for the next 3-4 years, some of you guys will maybe even want it longer. You always like lowered cars, you like driving it. If you're from that type of background, you already know you're getting coilovers. For some of the people who sit there and say, I just want to get springs because you think it's a cheaper option, it's not really always a cheaper option. Let me quickly explain. If you go get, let's say you go get lowering springs, $300. You're gonna put it on your stock shocks. Your shocks are not built to have a 2-inch drop. So the ride quality will be crappy. You will have bottom outs. The car wouldn't drive as nice as it used to drive. It won't be as comfortable unless you drive by the pristine roads. But most of us do not, right? What's gonna happen now is now the shock's gonna drive bouncy. You're not gonna enjoy it. If you put 1 or 2 people in the car, it's not gonna be a fun ride, right? If you go with coilovers, you don't have that issue because coilovers are designed for the car to drive lower. The dampering or the shocks are designed to take a certain amount of weight and when you sit in the car, it doesn't now start sagging the car doesn't slam because the shocks are actually doing their job, right? Now, here's the thing that's so cool about it. To replace a shock for your OEM setup might be $150, $200. I don't know how much the DDS suspension on it is on the Red Sports and the 3.0T Sports, but to replace my shock was about 90 bucks. So I replaced the 2 rear shocks for about 180. Very simple system to do it on my own, and I can install it back on the car, and that's it. I got 50,000 miles plus out of 2 cars, and now I'm about to put it into the 3rd car. So I spent about $1,000 on this a long time ago. I replaced all 4 struts on it, or shocks on it, and I did switch out to a different springs to test it out. So there's a little bit more money invested. Probably I'll just throw up there maybe $1,500 invested, but I got to drive it on 3 different cars. Wow. And I had great comfortability in driving. I drove this car to Canada. I drove this car down south. I went to races and everything. I mean, drove on these coilovers everywhere in all different temperatures, from 0 degrees Fahrenheit outside to about 110 degrees during the summertime. So these shocks, these BC coilovers did a great job. And when you think about the hardware, the collars and everything took the wear and tear. The shocks, yeah, they went through it, but it is what it is. But outside of that, hopefully that just gave you guys make you guys more comfortable, and if you want to get it. Also, to be advised for the people who do have a 3.0T like me with the sport packaging, with the DDS suspension, or the Red Sports that should come with DDS suspension, I still do recommend, if you want to, you can cheap out and go get a light drop from like any one of these companies with like an inch drop with the stock DDS suspension. It's really good. I've heard plenty of good recommendations from it. But if you don't have DDS suspension, I still recommend, guys, go get some kind of coilovers for a good price, $700-800, and just stick with those. Hopefully I put a video up or somewhere in the car that I would recommend, or talking about what's really getting a little bit more deep into springs versus coilover type of talk thing or whatever. I even have one with coilovers versus bags. But outside of that, guys, you have a good morning, good afternoon, good night. If you want to support the channel, link below is going to be to my Teespring account. If you're on the phone, you'll probably see, you know, if you want to buy a shirt or a hat or anything like that. If you guys want to just hit me up, man, just hit me up at boostinmotion on IG, Facebook, and boostinmotion at gmail.com. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys so much. You have a good day. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Do appreciate you guys. Love you guys very much. You can also check out the 2 links I posted for some of my other videos. Also, on top of that, if you want to purchase some boostinmotion merch, definitely check the link that I posted also. And finally, if you've been watching all my videos and you enjoy them, please hit the link to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.